30 seconds, guys. If I could ask everybody. 30 seconds. We got the city attorney on the way. So if I can get Commissioner Clark to make his way to the dais. He's talking about hunting and fishing, and I know what he's doing down there. We're going to go ahead and get started here.
That was your boss, not me.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled commission meeting of May 8th to order. I do have just a couple of minor changes to the published agenda. I'd like to move item 3, which is the employee referral program, to after the conversations about law enforcement and the Newberry Police Department update, just so we can get everybody out of here as expeditiously as possible. And I am going to move item 8 off of the consent agenda. I understand why staff put it on the consent agenda, and I think it won't take us 2 minutes to talk about it, but I think anytime you have a loan agreement in a consent agenda, just for the sake of transparency so that people know what we're talking about, we've already talked about it, but for the public's edification so they know what we're talking about. And so where would that go? If we pull that off of the consent agenda, would that be item 12 under the agenda item? No, 13. Item 13. So those are my 2 amendments or changes, and with that, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Mazon. Any comments, questions on the motion from Dice? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Stephen Wilson from the First Baptist Church to come out and give us an invocation. If you would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow directly. Pastor, good to see you again.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just are so grateful, Lord, that we have another beautiful day in this town, Lord, and the blessings that you continue to pour out upon our people and our community. And we pray that in the discussion of the things that are occurring here, the decisions being made, that we truly have a heart that reflects the community, the people, the issues that are going on. And the manner in which we handle these issues are handled with compassion, with justice, with integrity. And so, Lord, I pray that your wisdom is here in this place, and that we will act justly and act wisely and act in a way that brings you glory and honor. And so, Lord, may we be grateful for all the things you've given us and all the blessings you provide. Lord, may we be humbled by the responsibilities that you have given us and those in positions of leadership here. And may we continue to act selflessly for the things that we wish to accomplish here in this town and this community. And may we give you all the honor and glory each and every step of the way. We thank you, Lord, above all things here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I'd like to ask the Honorable Sheriff to lead us in the pledge.
To do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. And Sheriff, we appreciate that. We will start with our first presentation, which is a proclamation about Historic Preservation Month. Brian, I think you have a really brief presentation, and then I'll read this proclamation into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you stated, it is...
Once the clicker works, it's really brief.
Very brief. It is Historic Preservation Month, and now it's gone again. There we go.
Is it April 1st?
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
So, as I say, it's Historic Preservation Month. National Trust for Historic Preservation puts this out and celebrates every year. This year's theme is People Saving Places, which coincidentally is apparently the same as last year. The city of Newberry does have its own designated historic district. We are a certified local government, and we have a Florida Main Street community. We are a Florida Main Street community. Historic preservation is addressed in our comprehensive plan, the Newberry Vision sub-element, the future land use element, and that reflects our culture, heritage, and values of the community. And the built environment reflects these concepts. So Just some old historic photos from around Newberry. Some of our structures that are contributing structures. And John Paul found a picture of Toby Rutledge, who was the first Newberry Watermelon Festival queen.
Still alive.
Put it in there. So, been going on for 78 years, is it now? And so, a request is to proclaim for the mayor to proclaim May as Historic Preservation Month for the city of Newberry.
Well, it's good time, and we've been thinking a lot about historical preservation of buildings and stories and history, so it's my honor to offer the following proclamation into the record. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for economic development and growth management, it helps to foster local pride and maintenance of overall sense of place making. Whereas the National Trust for Historic Preservation celebrates the month of May as the National Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is relevant for all communities and residents of all ages, ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and all walks of life. And whereas it is important to acknowledge the roles history, architecture, and archaeology play in our lives and the contribution made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspect of the heritage that has shaped us in our city. Whereas historic preservation is supported within the city of Newberry by the Board of Commission, the Historic Preservation Board, as well as many other local businesses and neighborhoods. Whereas the city of Newberry will be celebrating the Historic Preservation Month in May 2023. The theme for this year is People Saving Places. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby declare the month of May 2023 as the month of historic preservation in the city of Newberry, and encourage citizens to identify, celebrate, and educate others, and strive to preserve places that are important to them. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 8th day of May. Let it be proclaimed. All right, let's go save some buildings and some history. And that will move us right to an Upward Bound presentation. I've had the honor of listening to this presentation being given directly to students. It's a fantastic program, and I invited them to come and share this program with us, and it's my hope that everybody watching at home, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it in the days to come, will listen to what the services that they're offering and help make sure that their room is full of kids who want to go to college. And that's the best presentation I can give you, the introduction. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Boise Waiters. I'm the Director of Upward Bound Math and Science at Santa Fe College. This is my colleague, Ebony Bennett, and we're going to be brief. As my wife said, be brief, be good, and be gone. So, Upward Bound has been around for about 50 years. It's a federally funded program that supports first-generation college students who aspire to participate in careers in math and science. The benefits of this program are, as you see, summer enrichment, college preparation, college visits. We're going to visit FAMU, FSU this summer, academic support. Who qualifies? Good question. First generation students, which is parents that don't have a four-year degree, and students who meet federal low income levels. UMBS's purpose is to generate skills and motivation. And our main thing that we focus on is respect for self and others, open to new experiences, attitude of learning and leadership, vision for the future, and plan to achieve success. The program structure. We have two structures. We have a Saturday Academy. We meet one Saturday a month. And we have our summer enrichment program, which starts June 5th through August 14th, which will be coming up very soon. Thus, the reason we're here to try to get some students in our program. Okay, the required things we need for our program is a student application, a statement of income, commitment, a parent consent, which is very important, liability waiver, academic records, and emergency records. Okay, the UBMS experience are during the summer. As I mentioned earlier, we go to various places. One of the places we'll be going to is Kennedy Space Center. We'll be going to Disney, Universal. They have a program with roller coasters, which focuses on science. In addition to that, we'll be going to FAMU, FSU, and things like that. Our academic policy is 4 years of English, 2 years of foreign language, 4 years of math, 3 years of social studies, 1 credit of phys ed, which also helps students online. These are some of the things we help students. Our minimum grade point average is 2.5. Even though students don't have a 2.5, we still will accept them in the program. We will help them to get to that point. And I'll turn it over to Ebony and let her do it. She just wants to click.
I was doing a good job at it. So our attendance policy is pretty simple. All you have to do is give us a note. We do know that some high school students have extracurricular activities. So a handwritten note from a parent or a guardian will do. And we encourage students to participate all throughout the school year and over the summer, and they do receive incentives for doing so, including a stipend that they get every semester. And those are just some ways that you can earn points. And in short, you can contact us at the following emails and phone numbers. We still are accepting applications up until our Saturday Academy that starts on June 5th. And that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Well, I had the
questions?
opportunity to chaperone the seniors on Grad Bash, and I told them I was only riding those roller coasters so I could study the science behind them. Anybody got any questions for Upward Bound?
So you want to sign up?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It's a great program.
If you're first generation, you can sign up.
Yeah,
A high school
First generation, let's make sure it's full up. Any questions? No, great. All right. We appreciate you guys.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know you said high school, so what if there's a student that graduates, decides he doesn't want to go to college, but wants to go to college in a year? Does your program qualifies for them after a year?
You mean the people that were in our program or?
No, they're not in your program. They graduated high school, right? They
Okay.
decide they wanted to, do something else, but then they decide they want to go back, even within a year. Would they qualify for your
No,
program?
because our program is geared towards high school students, 9 through 12.
but we
but
do
they-
have the resources to point them in the right direction.
Right, and I was going to tell you, we do have some other programs that will help with people that want to go to college. That's the other thing that I'm glad you mentioned that, because everybody can't go to college, everybody don't want to go to college, but this is a good start. We can help with preparing to go to college with SAT prep, ACT prep, and also if they want to go to a technical or vocational of some sort. So again, this is a good bridge, a good start. We do tutoring and things of that nature. All right.
Thank you.
And Mike, can we put that, or Dallas, can we get that QR code, put it on our website for a little bit? And I want to back up 1 second. I apologize. I get rolling, and we have 2 members of the Historic Architectural Review Board here to receive the proclamation. And I went and read it, and then just was so excited about Upward Bound, I got right into it. So, Ms. Shalom, Ms. Parker, could you come on down, and I'll give you this proclamation. And Dallas, could you grab a photo? I know, I know. We'll stand right here in front for the photo. Yeah, you get in the middle.
Oh, boy.
Get in the middle. There you go. All right, we appreciate the work that you guys do. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you. No, you take it home, bring it to the next meeting. No, our historic board, they put in a lot of volunteer hours, they give up time, and we do appreciate their work. And now it's gonna take us to new item 3, which is law enforcement update from our sheriff. Honorable Sheriff, thank you for coming to Newberry, sir.
Good evening, and certainly I'm honored to be here and equally honored to be your sheriff. I have with me the people who make me look good, staff at the Lafayette County Sheriff's Office. Would you all please stand, please? Thank you. And if you would oblige, Mr. Mayor, I'd like for them to say a couple of words after I'm done. You know, I've been the sheriff now about 2.5 years. And we've had such a wonderful relationship with Newberry. Coming to your watermelon festivals, of course, I beat Congresswoman Kammick with the seed spitting contest, and I do have a few in my pocket in case you all don't want to agree with what we say tonight. And coming to your parades, we just love Newberry. And we love the partnership, and certainly I do know it's a goal of Newberry to have their own police department. We are certainly understanding of that goal, and whatever we can do to assist you all in accomplishing that goal, we're willing to do it. Whether it's 2 years, a year, or 10. We understand the importance of having the fabric of your community, running your own police department. I did it in the city of Alachua when we loaned you all Mr. New. And we want you to know our commitment. And when you hear from the team tonight, you'll hear them tell you our commitment for the city of Newberry and what we're willing to do for you, not only now as your law enforcement department now, but we're willing to do that if you all get a law enforcement department. For example, we have Newberry adjacent to you all, we have the city of Alachua. We're there assisting them all the time. City of Gainesville, we assist them. City of High Springs, we assist them. They have their own police department. So you all getting your own agency is no affront to us. We understand it. It will be a collaborative effort for all of us. And that's what we want you to know. We don't want you to think we feel any kind of way uncomfortable about your goal. Your goal is our goal. But until you get one, we're going to be your premier law enforcement organization, and we're honored to do so. Having said that, we're going to touch on some of the things that we have done for Newberry, some of the things that have happened with the school threats, with the bomb threats, all those negative things, the shootings, some of those. We're going to touch on that, and then I'm going to come back up if you have any questions, and we're going to have each of the command staff take about 2 minutes, if you will, just to say a couple of words. Starting out with Chief of Staff, Major Yaker.
Good evening, Commission, Mayor, Manager, and citizens. Sheriff has asked me to keep my presentation short, so I think I got it down to about 55 minutes. I'm kidding, I'll be brief. But I'm honored to be here, and what I'd like to cover with you, at the request of the manager as well, who we met last week, kind of a snapshot of the statistics for Newberry for 2022, and probably go over just a little bit more in addition to that. But as you can see on the slide, again, this is just a simple snapshot for within the city limits of Newberry from last year. And you can see stolen vehicles, you had 17, conveyance burglaries 32, I'm summarizing here. Domestic disturbances 50, robbery 1, sex offenses 6, sex batteries 1, stabbings 3, shots fired 1, and homicide 1, which is the one on 30th Avenue, and it's still under investigation, although I think Chief Detective is willing to give a little bit of an update, what we can share without compromising the integrity of the investigation, if you will. For a total of just over 6,000 calls for service, and as you can see, we did over 700 traffic stops. 231 of those resulted in written citations, several warnings. And what I'm really proud of is the security checks, the over 2,400 security checks that we did in the city. So that's out, at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, where we're going around checking businesses and making sure they're not getting broke into. And I think that's what helps keep those numbers on the far left down. And I think we're proud of that. And I know that the city's proud that you have a very safe city that is in good hands all the way around. And self-initiated calls, there's over just shy of 900. So the one thing that I was asked to also cover is the amount of reports that we took. And for 2022, that number was 742 reports. In 2021, it was 722 reports. And in 2020, it was 619 reports. And just kind of give you a comparison to 2022, for calls for service, total calls for service back in 2020, it was just over 5,800. In 2021, it was just under 6,900. And I'm sure you all know all the services we provide. The school resource deputies, we come with a whole caveat of forensics, detectives, the whole 9 yards, anything you need. SWAT, bomb team. Coincidentally, the sheriff's bomb team was out helping the other city today recover some live ordnance, unfortunately. And since I'm talking about bombs, I'm sure we all remember back in 2021 where the county, well, nationwide, quite frankly, was plagued with all those bomb threats, and it hit home here as well, right? And very disruptive to the community, very disruptive to the parents and who had to go pick up their kids, and the teachers who had to evacuate their kids, and they go to one spot and then they'd say, "We see you and we're going to shoot you." I'm on top of a roof, and we had to put the sheriff's helicopter up, and we dealt with that. But luckily, the sheriff's team responded very quickly, and we made 2 arrests. And just kind of give you a snapshot on that one. Again, it was in 2021. But just the initial response in those calls, 165 work hours. And we did get successful convictions, if you will, in those cases. And each of those 2 defendants were made to pay restitution. The first one in the sum of just shy of $15,000 because, the aviation fuel and the amount of time spent on the detectives and the deputies and the school resource deputies. And the other defendant was just over $12,000 in restitution. Kind of costly. But luckily, at the end of the day, nobody was hurt. And that's what it's all about. So I also want to briefly talk about a snapshot just from last month to kind of give you an idea where we're at year to date. So in April of 2023 in Newberry, we did 517 calls for service. Of note, 17 of those were follow-up investigations, so where the detectives or the deputies are following back up on a citizen complaint or report, if you will. 46 traffic stops last month. Disturbances, 12. DCF investigations where we come out and help them, 6 in the city. Increased patrols, just last month alone, 198. Pretty good compared to the total 517 calls. So almost half of those were the deputies out here actually doing increased patrols. Again, very proud of that. Last week, while talking to Manager New, we reaffirmed our commitment, as he did to me, is to maintaining a solid law enforcement presence in the city of Newberry. You want it and you deserve it. The citizens deserve it. Sheriff's fully committed to that. He told me he wants to move forward aggressively on establishing a precinct in the city of Newberry. And Manager New and I have already been in discussions, along with Mr. With Dallas Lee, about where we're going to put that and what that would look like, pending approval from the board, of course. And we're very excited about that. You already have a deputy here, 24 hours a day, both shifts all the time, and of course your school resource deputies, and they bring other deputies when needed. But we would love to have a larger footprint here. Again, you deserve it, you need it, and we're committed to that. So with that being said, I think I'm going to turn it over to.
Can I ask one question before you turn it over?
Yes, sir.
Because you got the stats guy, and about that larger footprint, do you have an average response time for our area? I know that when we were in negotiations with the county for an ambulance, it really, in order to get the ambulance here, we had to keep 2 or 3 or 5 years of records of average response times. So do you have any of those kind of?
So I don't have the exact number, and I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction, but what I can do is easily get that and provide that back.
That'd be fantastic.
That's an easy follow-up for me. What I can tell you is just listening to the radio and knowing the deputies and knowing the proximity to Newberry and that they're here all the time, I'd venture to say it's pretty low. You'll hear is, I think Chief Detective Sharbrush is going to talk about some of the cases recently, because I think you'll be, one, you're inquisitive, I'm sure, and you and the citizens would probably be, appreciate hearing some of the things we do behind the scenes. And so, like, the sheriff rolled out, and I don't want to steal his thunder too much, the sheriff rolled out this big Narcan initiative where each deputy now in the field gets Narcan. And the reason being is because we beat those ambulances, no offense, Chief, we beat those ambulances and those fire trucks because we can just generally go a little faster.
It's a county ambulance. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
And it isn't just for the patient or the person who overdosed, it's to the family member or to the lady or fellow or the gal that's going in there to do pest control, because they get exposed too, or a family member, or the cop. So that Narcan, it was at no cost. Sheriff got a grant, so all the deputies now have Narcan in their cars to render aid. So we understand the importance of a fast response time, and that's why we want to make sure we keep a deputy at all times firmly planted here to meet your needs.
And one other thing I add on that, I was questioned as to why would you do such a program to save lives of those who are on drugs? And I think they forget about the innocent people who try to save the lives of those who are on drugs. And if you have a child who are with a parent who may be overdosed on such a drug, this Narcan helps that child, saves that child's life. So we're really saving lives, and that's what this program is about. And it's really being prevalent throughout the nation, not just the state of Florida. So it's one of our most proudest initiatives.
Newberry is 1,000% behind that. We have worked on the opioid initiative and the need for Narcan with that, so we were very, very proud when we saw our sheriff stand up for that.
And every deputy has it in their vehicle, prepared to save a life.
And any more questions for me on the stat side before I turn it over to
Nice.
Chief Detective Sharbrush?
Any questions for the stats? All right. Thank you,
Absolutely,
sir.
my pleasure.
All right, good evening. Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager. Appreciate the time. Excuse me while I open my laptop up here. So I'm John Shawbrush. I'm a captain at the Sheriff's Office. I'm the Chief Detective over our Criminal Investigations Division. Also a proud resident of the city of Newberry. I live in Country Way. So I'm certainly have a vested interest in keeping the community safe out here. So I'm going to pick up just where the Chief of Staff and the Sheriff left off with the overdose issues. So what I'm looking at right here is what we call our OD map. And so this is a monthly report that gets generated with overdoses or suspected overdoses throughout the county. So in the month of April, there were 94 total suspected overdoses countywide. So of course, that's not just Newberry, that's countywide, and there was one suspected fatal overdose in the county. That's better than March. We had a rough month in March. We had 6 fatal suspected overdoses in March, but 3 of those were from the same residence, unfortunately. And that just goes to show you that what the effects of fentanyl in particular are in these opioids. It's literally killing people. With that, last month in April, like I said, 94 suspected overdoses, only 1 fatal, and a big reason is because there were 23 instances of naloxone being administered, Narcan. So that's probably a big reason why there was 1 fatality out of those 94 suspected overdoses. And within the city of Newberry, so we have had an overdose recently. We're actually actively working an overdose investigation, which means I can't share a lot of the details of it with you, but here's what I can tell you. So our action unit, that's our Alachua County Traffic Interdiction and Organized Narcotics Unit. It's our drug unit that works for the sheriff's office. They're currently working this case. And I can tell you that 2 potential sources of supply have been identified. I can share that with you. And that they've actually admitted to the sale or the delivery of the narcotics to the deceased person. So again, I can't give you more information than that right now as far as who they are, any of those information. The investigation is ongoing, but we are pursuing, hopefully, a potential charge of 3rd-degree murder. So whenever somebody dies as a result of narcotics that are delivered to them, there is a potential charge of homicide that goes along with that, and we're pursuing that. That is rare. I'll tell you right now, it's rare to get that charge, as a chief of staff can certainly attest to, and the sheriff. But we think that this particular one, which happened here in Newberry, is a candidate for that, and that's what we're seeking. So that investigation is still underway. I've got several investigations I can talk to you guys about. He mentioned the homicide investigation here in Newberry on 30th Ave, right outside of Champions Park. The victim in that one was Joseph Malone. So again, that's also an active investigation. But what I can share with you is it's believed to be a road rage incident, which makes it difficult in and of itself because of the random nature of that. So obviously when you have random parties come into contact with each other, it makes it a little bit more difficult to solve and to put the pieces together because there's not a pre-existing relationship to work off of. However, we do have a person of interest identified. Can't share that information with you, but we do have somebody that we're interested in. I can tell you there have been numerous search warrants and subpoenas that have been issued for social media, cell tower dumps, cell phone data, trail cameras have been put out, all kinds of things like that. There have been hundreds of investigative hours that have gone into that homicide. We've got a cold case unit. We're in the process of hiring a new cold case detective. As you may or may not know, we lost Kevin Allen to retirement. That's a good reason and well deserved by him. But we are in the process of hiring a new cold case detective. But our goal for these homicides, obviously, is to not allow them to become cold cases. No, we don't want that to happen. So our detectives are working very, very hard in that particular one and in all of our investigations. So, like I said, I have a bunch of investigations I could talk to you all about. Is there anything in particular that you're interested in or you want to hear from me as far as criminal investigations?
Commissioner, you got anything that people have asked you? You've hit on the ones that folks have asked me about. Anybody got anything else in particular? Commissioner Clark?
Okay, that's Lila Leach. So that is one of our cold cases. The Lila Leach homicide, Commissioner, is what you're asking about. So, and Chief of Staff Yeager, back when he was a detective, was one of the primary, was the lead on that for quite a while, and is actually responsible for getting the billboard put up out there. So on that case, again, that would be, there were hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating to say that. Literally hundreds of pages of reports documented by several detectives, including, at the time, Detective Yeager, and then to include our cold case investigator, Kevin Allen, who just retired. Numerous possible suspects and persons of interest identified, interviewed, swabbed for DNA. I believe the sign up there says 19 eliminated by use of DNA. It was featured in the Gainesville Sun Most Wanted several years in a row, just any information with rewards offered through Crime Stoppers. Obviously, the billboard in Newberry was created. There are over 150 items of physical evidence have been collected So, I mean, that case, for those who don't know, and I think most people in Newberry do, but, that was a 96-year-old woman, Lila Leach, in her home, found severely beaten, and she died a few days later, actually, I'm sorry, a few months later, as a result of that completely unprovoked attack. So it's a horrendous crime, something that we take very seriously. That occurred back in 2010. So like I said, unfortunately, it is one of our cold cases, but we're not going to let that lie. I mean, our sheriff is committed very much to cold cases, which is why we're trying to get a new cold case investigator in the door as soon as possible. So we still do get tips, and every single tip we get on Lila Leach, that becomes top priority, and we investigate it. So,
Chief, I want to interject.
absolutely.
I know that's a case that's near and dear to many residents here in Newberry and outside. Again, as he mentioned, a 96-year-old woman that was a model citizen, at some point served on a neighborhood watch, and retired out of another state where she sang in a choir. I mean, really. I can tell you, we have literally brought a plane in and followed people around inside of this county for days on end. I can tell you, we've spent tens of thousands of dollars in private laboratories besides our state laboratory doing DNA comparisons. There is a lot of work that has gone in that case, and a lot of work that will continue to go in this case until we bring justice to the family of Lila Leach.
And Major, I would say, for a cold case, this is y'all's world. I don't know, but I know we're putting a lot of resources into keeping the billboard up. Maybe we could use those resources to attack it in a different way at some point in time. Again, I think you leave the billboard up, it gets you, some reports there immediately for the first year or two. But I think the billboard's been up now for quite some time. I don't know that there's another way you can put those dollars that might help stir some more interest, get some more tips. But the community, I believe, would understand if you say, well, we're going to take those resources and we're going to try to get some new leads some other way.
Absolutely. No opposition. We can allocate those monetary resources into the investigation to where it could be more useful. We certainly can talk about that with the sheriff after this.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And Commissioner, well, he's just stepped away, but he had a question he wanted to ask before you go.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Clark, you wanted some case.
I want to clarify something prior to this statement. I'd like to say that sometimes you get a bad rap. And, Mr. Mayor, we talked about this particular one in Countryway. There was a incident that happened. It took about an hour. And from our standpoint as citizens and commission, and I truly stand here before you and say I appreciate the Sheriff's Department. I've had them here from a kid on, so nothing against the Sheriff's Department, absolutely on my team. But there was a thing, and we clarified this. And the way we clarified this, there was a little investigation done behind the scenes from your department. And Mr. Mayor, this was an hour response time that should have took literally a few minutes to get to our citizen. And there was a failure in communication. But it's being addressed. But from the time that the sheriff got the call, the deputy sheriff got the call, it was only 9 minutes till they were at that house. So the prolong, what I'm trying to say is, you get a bad rap for an incident that did happen. Things do happen, but it's been clarified, it's been addressed, and it wasn't an hour because a deputy wasn't able to respond. It was an hour because there was a failure in communication.
Yes.
So,
And like I said, I live in Countryway. We take great pride in our response time out here. And also one thing that we do is we're very transparent, and we take allegations and complaints very seriously. That's something that I can also speak to. I was for a little while the chief inspector of our Officer Professional Standards, and we take complaints very seriously. And so we're not going to sweep things under the rug. We recognize we make mistakes.
Absolutely.
We're human beings as well. So I appreciate the comments though and the support.
well, and I would say that more often than not, when you hear the rumor and then you take the time to ask some questions, 99.9% of the time you find out that there's more to the story. So I appreciate clarifying that, and I know we want to hear from all the command staff. So if the commission will just kind of let us move through, so we don't keep you guys here all night long. We want
Yes,
you
sir.
out there solving crimes. keeping
Absolutely.
everybody
Thank you.
safe. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening,
Commissioners,
sir.
Madam Clerk, Mr. City Manager. We go way back. You know, I got a kid with Mike. Been here all my life. Worked in law enforcement 37 years, just about. Been a chief of Alachua, chief of High Spring, city manager. I just can't keep a job. So I don't want the chief job. Whenever y'all get a police department, you can't count me out, Mr. Attorney. So this is truly an honor and a privilege to be here. Sheriff Watson is not only my boss, but he's a good friend, has a good heart. He loves small communities. We old country boys. We grew up in the country. We love small communities. This is near and dear to us. And you will see it and it'll resonate throughout the men and women that come and protect this community. Even when we don't know folks, we're going to put our lives on the line for you. Those kids are very important to us. Senior citizens, very important to us. And we thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And appreciate your support, and this continues. If you have any questions or concerns that your citizenry want to know about, again, we're transparent. The sheriff is truly, we stand up. You know, we shade the ground we walk on. We make sure that folks understand we're going to be here to protect you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Now, you guys may know this gentleman as an excellent law enforcement officer, but you got to hear him. He's a poet also. You ask him to recite a poetry that he wrote back in high school.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Mayor, commissioners, city attorney, city manager, I'm Chad Scott. I'm the colonel of operations at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. I've been doing this thing for quite a while. You know, I grew up on these streets here in Newberry. You know, walk past this establishment every day going to school. I worked in the neighborhood. I worked for Ed Norfleet ever since I was 10 years old. We hurdled cows, picked watermelons, squash, cucumbers, you name it, we did it. You know, so this is a premier agency, and Newberry is dear to my heart. So everything that we got, you guys got, and we're gonna bring it as fast as we can. So, and when you talk about the way things are today and the passion that we have for law enforcement, you know, you got the right agency here as far as the sheriff's office. Because I tell you, being back at the sheriff's office, I didn't realize how important we were to everybody. Every agency in this surrounding area pulled from us. I mean, because we have everything, you know, and that's what we do. But I've enjoyed law enforcement. It's near and dear to my heart. And you guys, you know, I grew up here. I grew up around Mark Clark and Monty. Monty grew up right down the road from me, probably about 10 houses down from me. So this is what we do, guys. You know, and Newberry don't have anything to worry about, you know, because we're here. And you talk about response time, I can guarantee our response time is going to be impeccable because we have a lot of guys that live here, and if they get the call, they coming. Whether they're working or not, they coming. I can remember a long time ago when a guy was walking around the countryway and a situation happened. And that guy got encountered by an off-duty deputy. It wasn't the deputy on duty, it was the off-duty deputy. So we have a great track record. So we enjoy what we do. I'm committed, and I don't plan on going nowhere for a long, long time. So we're going to take care of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I
You're
gotta
gonna
be
have to
professional,
introduce
Mayor. Yes, I gotta be professional and call you by your title. Can't call you Jordan. Can't call you Tim. All right?
Well, that's not what you call me out there. You have a whole other word.
Shh. I know each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. Most of you are like family, or you know, like Mark. I grew up with his kids. He's old. Newberry is home. Newberry will always be home. You know, I wasn't born here, wasn't raised here like Colonel Scott. But when I got here, he taught me everything I needed to know about Newberry. He made sure that I knew Newberry before I knew anywhere in Alachua County. And that stuck with me. And I raised my family here. I raised my kids here. You do a phenomenal job teaching my daughter. You'll one day teach my son. Our kids are best friends. The one thing I think about when I think about small town law enforcement is that you want that local feel, right? The reason that you usually have a police department or something like that is because you want that local, you know this young man who you just caught with a beer, on the back porch, where you know his mama and daddy, and you can call him and say, hey, come get your boy, stuff like that. But that's what you have. That's what you have in the sheriff's office. You have local law enforcement because about every deputy that you get out here, they get one taste of Newberry and they end up buying a house or moving out here within 20 minutes. I mean, it didn't take me long at all, right? Norfleet built my first house, I mean, it's just, you have local law enforcement. I mean, that's what you have, and you have their phone numbers just like most of these deputies or sergeants or lieutenants or, you guys have my phone number. You call whenever you want, text, and I'm going to respond. Colonel's going to respond. The undersheriff, the sheriff, these fellows are going to respond to you. So thank you for allowing us to be your law enforcement. Thank you for allowing us to invest in the community that we love. Thank you for allowing us to protect you all as our family, because that's what I see all of you as. And you need something, you call, and I'm coming. I'm running. I mean, I might show them underoos, but I'll be there. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Captain?
Evening. Exactly. Mr. Mayor, Commission, I can echo all the comments that are said, but the bottom line that I look at it as is we can boast a lot of great things, but when stuff happens, you have to have a team of people that come to do that. In the middle of the night, whether my phone rings from a coworker or someone from the city, I can tell you the colonel and we spoke so much this weekend. I told him, I said, look, you can come stay at my house or I'll stay at yours, but we're going to waste all our minutes talking on the phone. But you have a support from the top all the way down for my chain of command with our colonel and our sheriff and the undersheriff to say, look, if something happens that we're there. We just talked about a new plan to devise some different ways with really some safety concerns, because we can build all the houses, have the greatest stuff in the world, but if things are happening where there's too much crime or a lot of problems, people don't want to move here. So we can make a lot of stuff, but you have to have people that want to come live in that stuff. So you have the support from the sheriff on down, you have the support from our colonel, and he and I really kind of beat it up the other day, and yesterday we were talking about it, dealing with either block parties or street issues or just stuff that pops up that no one planned for. And he gave me 100%. I'm going to put him on the spot by making sure he still stands by that. He says, we'll take the complaints if there's a problem, but we're still going to go out there and do a professional job and make sure we're taking care of the problems at hand. So we know we have citizens that if they want to live here, they're going to look at and do their research with all the great things that Newberry has, but they don't want to come live in a place that they don't feel safe and don't feel welcome in. In the back of the room, we have a couple of our folks from our School Resource Bureau. You have deputies in each one of your schools that are there every day. They boast one of the things of saying 100% coverage every day. If the deputies off or sick, they have somebody to fill in. If we got to find somebody to fill in, we'll make it happen to make sure that our kids get to and from school safely. Still ironing out the 15th Avenue thing, because I'm sure somebody will discuss the traffic issue there, but we have people assigned there every day, even with our crossing guard, to make sure that we're getting traffic flowing and stuff like that.
I've seen you out there in the morning covering.
I've done it myself, so it's not too bad.
We appreciate it.
But understand that your team is here, and we are all Team Newberry, as we're all our team Alachua County, to make sure that we get the items taken care of that need to happen.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Young lady, don't let all these gentlemen steal the limelight. You're coming up, right? Thank you.
I can hold my own. Good evening, commissioners, the mayor, and the city manager, Madam Clerk. So my name is Dorian Keith. I'm the major at the jail, assigned to the jail director. And so my story is probably a little bit different from theirs, because they're the guys out there, but once they get them from out there, the bad guys, they bring them to me. And so my job, under the leadership of Sheriff Watson, is to make sure that we stay fair, firm, consistent, care, custody, and control. And we treat everybody the same, and we make sure whether they're accused of being guilty of a crime or they have been found guilty of a crime, they're still human, and we maintain that level of professionalism. And I can tell you from this command staff that what you hear them say is real. It's from their hearts, and it's not just rehearsed. Matter of fact, I didn't know I was going to say anything tonight. I was just told to show up, so here I am. So that's how the sheriff is. He knows that his command staff is real and that we're honest people, and he rely on us on that. And he instilled that in us. And so I thank you, and I hope that you guys get your precinct and with the assistance of the Sheriff's Office.
Absolutely.
All
Thank you,
right,
ma'am.
thank you.
We appreciate it.
Evening, Commission, Mayor, citizens. I'm Jacob Rush. I'm the Sheriff's General Counsel, and I started my career at the Sheriff's Office back in 2002 as a deputy cadet under Steve Ulrich. So I began as Sheriff's deputy. I ended up going to law school. I thought I didn't have a lot of friends when I became a law enforcement officer and didn't get invited to parties anymore. And once I became a sheriff's deputy, or once I became a lawyer, didn't get invited to the law enforcement parties anymore. And spent some time in private practice. Did a lot of police liability, helped out the city of Alachua in doing their forfeitures and assisting their police department. And Sheriff Watson, when he got elected, decided to reach down and pull me up as his general counsel, as someone who had been a sheriff's deputy at the sheriff's office and could bring that experience also as a lawyer. So one of our command philosophies that we do in my department, the legal department, is we try to provide the deputies with the resources they need to be able to accomplish their mission while also protecting them from mission creep. One of the large issues in law enforcement is that they're expected to be social workers and Swiss Army knives of society, and it's not practical or fair to put that all on a law enforcement officer or a deputy. But what we do is we branch off. So a few of the initiatives that we've done and enhanced is like our mental health co-responder team. We now have 2 co-responder teams that are a sheriff deputy and a clinician in one squad car. So when we get a call into our communication center, they're able to triage that as if it's a mental health call, and they can send it to the mental health co-responder team, which means that the person gets specialized care from a sheriff's deputy and a clinician, which might save them from a use of force incident. It might save them from charges or a trip to jail when it's really more of a health situation than a criminal situation. And it saves the deputies who are not part of the mental health unit from having to deal with a situation that is not their forte or is an additional burden that society is trying to put on them as a law enforcement officer and community caretaker. So that's one of the examples of the way that we try to look to the future as to what challenges that we're going to see. It's different in the 20 years that I've been in and out of law enforcement. We didn't have computers in the car when I was a deputy. When we did a search warrant, you think of it being for a house or a vehicle. Now, most of the search warrants that deputies are doing are for cell phones or for social media, and it's a completely different landscape. It requires new technology, new training, and new style of law enforcement that goes beyond the knocking on doors and interviewing suspects. That's part of it too. Nothing beats the human intelligence. So happy to be a part of it. Thank you for giving me some time up here. And any questions on the legal side?
We try and stay away from those.
All right. Very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah.
Have a good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, as you can see, the commitment of our team, they make us look good. They do us proud. To end, we're going to have 2 of our frontline people come up and say a few words, because we think it's important to hear from them. You see them every day. They are the ones who are knocking on the doors. They're the ones who's running behind the bad guy. It is so very important that we bring them up front as well. He stated there was no computers in the cars when he became a cop. When I became a cop, there was no computers, period. So goes to tell you how old I am. But I'm here if you all have any questions. We very much appreciate it. We're honored to work for this city. We're honored to be your law enforcement agency, law enforcement officials, and we are honored to continue to serve for you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Morning, Commissioners. Morning, Mayor. Morning, City Manager. I'm Sergeant Malden. I work within the schools on our Juvenile Relations Bureau. I've been in the schools for roughly 10 years. I was one of the lead safety instructors for our schools. I've had the pleasure of working with the mayor, running around Newberry High School with Nerf guns, teaching the staff and teaching the students on how to be safe in schools in a critical moment.
Pleasure for him. I got shot. Yeah.
He does a heck of a job securing a door, though. I could not get in that door, and that was a heck of a job, and that was pretty awesome. I have right here with me one of our prime Newberry deputies that works in Newberry every single day. His kids go here. He loves being out here. Deputy Campbell is at Oakview Middle School every single day, even when I look at him and I'm, Deputy, I think you look a little sick today. You probably should take a day off. And he goes, nope, this is where I want to be. This is what I love to do. We have guys right here in these schools that work every single day. We have Deputy Thompson, who's at Newberry High School. We have Deputy Huffman, who's at Newberry Elementary School. And they're all a part of the family. They're all a part of the family. Even if I can't reach one of my deputies because I need to get some information to them quickly, I can call the deans or I can call the BRT because they're right there next to them. Because unfortunately, if you have T-Mobile or if you turn around and you have Verizon, sometimes it works here, it doesn't work here. So I know I can call the BRT or I know I can call the dean that works hand in hand with those deputies in those schools, and I can get a hold of them because that's how much of a partnership that we have within our schools. Our deputies are with the administrators every single day. Our deputies are with the BRTs. They're even with the teachers and staff every single day. So we're truly blessed to have what we have right here in Newberry because it is family for us. It is absolutely family with us. I just got back from Dallas, Texas, where we took one of our robotics team right here from Newberry. We took one of our robotics teams from Oakview Middle School, and they participated in the world's competition in Dallas, Texas. So, and they did a heck of a job up there. Alachua County brought back some trophies, and so it's pretty awesome that we're capable of doing that.
Nice.
So.
As he said, my name is Deputy Campbell. I'm the school resource deputy at Oakview Middle School. This is my second year. I've loved every minute of it. It's been a privilege to work with the teachers, staff, some of your children even though attend there. My son attends there, even though we're not zoned, because he was able to get into the magnet program, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a great school. All the deputies that I can tell you, we talk constantly, whether or not we're sharing intelligence back and forth between people that know each other, because sometimes we have problems on buses, and we know that the buses are shared between the schools. So we'd be like, hey, we heard that this kid had a problem with one of my students, and it's constant back and forth communication. I feel like I have a great relationship with the staff, as all the deputies do out here. And, you know, the principal has been just amazing. He's been, you know, a rock in some of these tough times when we had the bomb threats and everything else that was going on last year. He was able to handle it with, you know, in collaboration with me and the sheriff's office. And if you guys have any questions, Mr. Mayor, you have my number. You can call me or text me anytime. And I respond pretty much anytime because I'm, like you said, I don't like being away from school even when we have regularly scheduled training. And I'm constantly in contact with the administration. Hey, is anything going on? Do you need anything? You know, things like that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them, but that's my spiel.
Sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, as you can see, we're a team. We love Newberry. We are honored to be your department, and we are you. And we just want you to know that consistency. As you can see, we're all equal. That's why everybody came up here. We're equal with different responsibilities. And our responsibility right now is Newberry. So just know that we're proud.
Well, we appreciate you, Mr. Sheriff. We appreciate the team coming out and talking to us. I know that when we had the bomb threats and moms were texting me and everybody was scared, it meant the world. And I know that I'm a teacher and a mayor, so it's a little different. But it meant the world that I had you on the phone, talking to you in the middle of that chaos, seeing the chopper when we get the text saying that, you know, I'm watching you in the park, right? And I look up and I say, yeah, but we're watching you too, right? And knowing that we have that ability, the SROs, I've had the pleasure of working with so many of them, and they're top notch. You know, they're
And your
fantastic.
manager is not shy about calling us if something doesn't look right.
Yeah, yeah. And
You'll never know he used to work for me.
And I've been real pleased that we were talking, you know, your command staff is filling out with some folks that we know that have been here a long time and we trust. So
yes.
And I've got one ask. We're going to take another shot at the school board this summer to reinvigorate Rad Kids, because as you guys know more than anybody else, you know, once someone's addicted, the recidivation rate is dismal. So we got to stop these kids from getting there. And Rad Kids helps with prevention. It helps with bullying. It helps with their confidence. So you've always been a supporter. I got to get the school board back on that page so that we can all work together as a team.
And we're committed to do that with you.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? Commissioner Martin?
Sheriff, I'm happy to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as we do from up here on the dais. I wanted to personally extend my appreciation for what your deputies do here in our community. I was sitting right over there behind that restaurant when the shots were fired right next door here during a party, and it was commendable for them to immediately turn around and go that way towards where the noise came from. I never felt scared or anything like that. I just, you get that firsthand experience, and there's nothing like that. Also, we know you lost a deputy not too long ago here, and we're happy to be able to embrace your department as we did here in our community. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
I just say thank you.
And as we talked about when we were sitting there having that delicious steak at the Lions Club, I think the 4-H kids made it.
Yes.
This commission has directed our staff to make sure we have constant updates, because I've always known and trusted your word that whenever this commission decides, whenever the community decides that it's time for a Newberry Police Department,
We're there.
we need 2 years to make that happen. So I don't know if that's happening in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but I've never, ever felt that was going to be a hostile conversation, that we were going to be partners, and that you would hear the community asking for that, and we'd all work together to do that. So the conversation we're about to have, that's why you were the first call.
Absolutely.
This is about our staff, making sure that they're following the direction of this board, keeping up to date with the numbers and those kinds of things, so that we can gauge and measure.
And we are committed to helping you all with that transition when that decision is made.
So we'd love for you guys to stay and listen to that conversation, but if you
No, we may get our feelings hurt. We're going to go ahead and leave. We'll read about it.
Yeah. But all we're having tonight is that conversation. We'll give you a minute
We understand.
to leave. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Sheriff.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Always good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Jake, always good to see you. Yeah, appreciate it. Nice presentation. Excellent job.
I've never had any doubt. Never did that.
I remember, I got a good memory.
Appreciate all your service.
No, we're doing Newberry Police Department, and we moved it to number 5. We have back to back. All right, Dallas, take us through the PD update. Wait, 1 second, Commissioner Cole. Oh, Judy left? All right, we'll give her a second to come back, and then we will have the employee update is the next. We put the 2 law enforcement conversations back to back.
I wore the appropriate color green today to
You can
blend in
introduce
with
the topic while we
sheriff's
wait.
officers. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, periodically staff updates our police feasibility study to keep the commission aware of what the current costs and operational issues related to starting the police department are. Remind the commission that it was part of your adopted strategic plan that we would continue to review and plan for a future police department. So this presentation tonight is part of that, part of your strategic plan moving forward. And that's about as much introduction as I have. Perfect.
Look at that timing.
Perfect. So we'll start with a peer city comparison. We've identified 7 peer cities. These are the same peer cities we looked at back in 2019 when we did our deep dives into law enforcement and drafted the law enforcement feasibility study. They range in size from about 6,000 to 10,000 people. As the commission knows, we're just above 8,000 people as of 2022. Our current law enforcement expenditures in our current year with the contract with the sheriff's office is $936,000. Looking at some of our peer cities, Operating a police department can range anywhere from the low 2 millions to the low 4 millions. It does depend on the level of service that you're looking for and the amount of officers you want on the street at any time. The average does seem to be about $2.5 million for a city of our size. I'm going to skip the call loads because we just heard that from the sheriff's office. A couple of reasons why cities look at police departments. This comes straight from the Department of Homeland Security. They have drafted a how to start a police department document that we greatly relied on. The largest reasons are slow response time, unsatisfactory personnel services, generally just poor service from your existing agency, or the need for higher levels of service from the community. Again, some more of the reasons that you typically see are large population growth, perhaps another city that's growing into your territory, more people, more problems, kind of thing. Some of the wrong reasons to start a police department are if elected officials have personal issues with the elected sheriff, if there's been one incident that was mishandled by the sheriff's office. My favorite wrong reason is that the sheriff has arrested, investigated, or enforced law against an influential local person. So if any of you guys get arrested, it's not the appropriate time to start a police department.
Never talking about me.
Oh, yeah. Well, if Mike gets arrested, that's a whole. I said influential.
Our guys would never
I said influential, Mike.
Our guys would never get arrested.
Yeah. Above reproach. So the planning checklist to get to a police department is to conduct a strategic assessment. So we would want to look at all the parts and pieces we need to successfully start a police department, make sure we're reviewing our existing plans and develop options. We'd want to hire a chief about a year or two in advance. So we have somebody on staff who has the skill set needed to create a police department, knows all the ins and outs. Negotiate all of our contracts, example being our combined communication contract. Our budget proposes that we would use the Alachua County Combined Communication Center and not try and start our own dispatch agency. Once we get to a few months before go live, we'd hire all the officers and staff. Somewhere in those 2 years, we'd also have to find office space, buy equipment, buy vehicles, buy all the things that a police department needs. So our initial staffing for the first few years would be 18 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees. That includes a chief and a deputy chief, a full-time detective, 4 sergeants, 6 patrol officers, 3 school resource deputies, officers, an evidence technician, school crossing guards, and an administrative assistant to support the department. There's your organizational chart.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
So like the resource officers and the crossing guards, are they not supplemented by the state or the Alachua County School Board?
Yes, sir, they are. When I get to the budget, you'll see where we have that number, but we do have included the funding we would get from the school board.
But they have to be hired by the local.
Correct. They're hired by the agency that provides them, and then the school board provides payment.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, in my experience, the funding that we would get from the school board won't fully cover the cost for those officers, those personnel, but it is towards it. So there's still an investment by the community. Like currently the sheriff's department, no, we receive that funding from the school. Sheriff's department gets it and it's left out of our contract.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the current funding is about $66,000 per school resource officer. So we have that budgeted in here. The school board does not provide any funding for crossing guards. So staffing during the day, during the week, you'd have obviously your command staff, the chief and the deputy chief, at least 1 patrol officer and a sergeant. You'd have the 3 school resource officers and the detective, and then on nights and weekends, you'd have the patrol sergeant and the patrol officer. In terms of equipment that we would need to purchase, by far the most expensive is going to be the fleet. We need to buy 18 patrol cars. When we get to the budgeting side of this, you'll see that there has been a substantial increase in the cost of vehicles, especially since 2019. So a large portion of the increase in our budget has gone to fleet.
Dallas, would it be car sharing?
No, sir. We can certainly look at car sharing, however, it's become very unpopular. And it is a retention and recruitment item to have take-home vehicles for officers. There's also the perception in the community if you get to see the cars in your neighborhood. We'd also need to buy computers and radios and vests and firearms and ammo and tasers and uniforms and lights and all sorts of good stuff. In terms of office space or a police department, we would need to identify about 3,000 to 3,500 square feet. Our initial thought is perhaps rental trailer units for the first year or two while we're under construction or under renovations of a building. The space needs to include offices, evidence room, area to meet with the public, training room, and an armory. And then obviously we need to buy office equipment and furniture for that, as well as IT equipment and specialized software for the police department. We have identified a couple of sites that are potential areas for the police department. One of which is the existing yard. Obviously, we currently own that property, so if we were to locate the police station there, we wouldn't need to purchase property, but we do have a couple of eligible sites. In other considerations that we would need to look at while starting a police department is how we're going to handle dispatch, mutual aid agreements with other agencies, the impact on our insurance, how we're going to handle training, what sort of grants are out there, working with FDLE, and then obviously a transition period with our current law enforcement provider. So we'd have a committee. We'd look for professionals in the area to help guide us. So here's the proposed budget. So your gross budget is $2.4 million. If you less out the school board's payment, your net is $2.2 million. In 2019, that number was about $1.8 million. So we have had a pretty significant growth in the last 4 years. Again, a large portion of that is due to the cost of vehicles and having to buy 18 vehicles all at once. The other part of that is, as I'm sure the commission is aware, law enforcement is a hard industry to recruit for these days. Salaries are being increased throughout the state to keep up with recruitment. So in this budget, we have included the most up-to-date current salaries we can, plus a little bit of extra to get us a few years out. But law enforcement salaries are definitely an area that are being increased pretty rapidly.
Now, before you leave that page, Dallas, remind me in broad strokes, because right now we're around $1 million, so we'd be looking at 2.2. What does that extra 1.2 look like in millage?
Wow.
Is this advancing? I just advanced it. Okay, well, we can wait. You can go back. We'll get there. But there was a sub part to that question, because when we left the MSTU and we did the contract, there was some strange parliamentary caveat because it was such a jump in millage that we had to have a supermajority, or was it unanimous? It was something like, it was very tense there for a minute because we all agreed, but if one person could. So with that would, I would imagine, precipitate the same type of situation, because you would need to have that millage all at, well, not necessarily all at once, because you could probably step in if you're planning out 2 years. But is that, look at that. Just go do your thing, Dallas. I'm going to shut up.
Those are great questions, Mr. Mayor. So the total budget would be $2.2 million. That's lessing out your school board contract. Without going into too much detail, but here's your budget for personnel, all inclusive. This includes salaries, benefits, workers' comp. So it's everything. So about 1.6 million plus the 5% we added on for kind of future proofing. In your operations, your biggest expenses here are going to be your communications and dispatch. We budgeted about $130,000 to cover our contract with Alachua County for communication services. The next largest is your amortized equipment. I can't say that. Which increased about $70,000 from the last time we presented this to you, again, because of the cost of those cars. Breaking out that amortization, it's about $1.9 million in equipment, weapons, land, et cetera, that we need to purchase to start the police department. And if you amortize that out, it's about $270,000 a year. So our plan, from the day that the city commission says we want a police department, we think it would take about 2 years to really get going. Our recommendation is if, for example, the commission said today to do it, we would increase the millage half of the way to the full millage the first year, and then the second half the next year, so you don't hit your residents with a 2 mil increase all in 1 year. It also helps relieve some of the pressure the mayor was alluding to and keeps us underneath the supermajority cap. So we would still need 4 out of 5 commissioners to vote yes to do it, but you would have that wiggle room of 1.
Commissioner Coleman.
So is this, you're saying right now it's an increase of 2 mils above where we are right now?
It is an increase of 2.281 mils. This one, or the House slide? Yeah. So currently, out of your millage rate, which is 5.92, 1.6 mils goes to fund the sheriff's office contract at $936,000 a year. That's about $247 per household if your house is valued at $150,000 taxable. To increase, to cover the cost of a Newberry Police Department, we would need to generate 3.9 mils at a cost of $590 per house. So the increase, the net between those two, is 2.28 mils that the commission would need to raise the millage rate to fund its own police department for a cost of about $342 a household increase. So again, going into the planning timeline, should the commission decide that they want to start a police department, it would take, on the short side, a year, on the better side, 2 years. This is kind of just showing some of the things we'd have to work on. These are some quotes somebody put in my PowerPoint. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions? Commissioner Farquhar.
This is probably the slide most people want to talk about.
What's the difference between our millage rate and High Springs millage rate? I mean, are we comparable to them, or?
We're under High Springs.
We're either under or right at it.
Are we under them by 2? I mean, how can they have a police department and we can't? I mean,
I mean, the short answer is they don't provide other services that Newberry does.
I mean, they have a fire department, they have a police department.
They don't have a planning department. Their public works effort is about half of ours. Those are the first 2 I can think of off the top of my head.
Mr. Mayor, they also have a full 10% water tax, which generates quite a bit more than our 6% water tax. I would also add that they have a much higher fire assessment. That funds a much higher portion of their fire department than our fire assessment funds. If you give me just a second, I have the comparison.
I think they also, when you look at High Springs, they started building their department a long time ago when construction costs weren't so high. So they've kind of got through the startup costs, and now they're down to just maintaining.
Right. But in 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is, I mean, the last 4 years we've had a 20-25% increase in cost. So you can expect probably the same thing in the next 3 or 4 years. So it's not like you're gonna.
I would also, I think one of the biggest differences is that, I've instructed staff to do this presentation at a very competitive salary schedule, so that Newberry is right in the mix, right, with everyone else. Because if you, there's no criticism on High Springs Police Department. I think I have a lot of respect for them at this moment in time, but they went through a lot of rocky years to get to this moment in time. And I think that one of the issues was when you are the lowest salary in the county, then all of the best candidates go to every other agency first. So I'm not exactly sure where that salary schedule puts us, but I'm assuming that it followed that directive of making us competitive.
Yes, sir.
So that, and I still think High Springs is the lowest paid agency in the county right now. I don't know how much below they are, but I think UF is the highest. City of Alachua is the lowest now?
So City of Alachua is the lowest. The sheriff's office actually is the second highest. GPD is currently
Is the first.
GPD is
Yeah.
below the sheriff's office.
They compete with each other, yeah. So this puts us in the mix for being in that competitive pool. So, I mean, there's probably some wiggle room in there. Again, the thing that I would remind this dais of is that our contract with ASO is not a contract with ASO. Our contract is with Sheriff Watson. If Sheriff Watson wins re-election, then our contract continues. If Sheriff Watson doesn't win re-election, then our contract has 180 days that we could try to say, look, we've got 180 days. I think anybody would honor that, but 180 days isn't 3 years, right? So that's the difficulty that we're in, is that right now, and it's like we said to the sheriff, right now, great relationship, it's cost effective. I think that everybody's happy with it. But if Sheriff Watson doesn't win re-election, we could find ourselves either doing that, you know, a new sheriff could come in and say, well, you know, by your own accounts, right? It costs you $2.2 million to have your own, so I'm gonna do it for 1.9, right? And that would put us right back in this situation, but in a 180-day window to make the plan, right? So that's not to say that we got to start efforting towards this right now, but it is to keep this on our brains to know that, you know, as long as Sheriff Watson wins the election, I believe in that partnership because he has never broken his word to me. He's always been responsive to me. He's been great for the city of Newberry. However, our contract is with him. It is not with the sheriff's department. And the next sheriff could say, you know, I'm not going to adhere to that contract. So, Commissioner Farnsworth,
yeah, I'm sure you recall that one time we never had we didn't even have a contract with the sheriff's department. And yet they were still required to provide services to us. So, is there any grants available for a startup like this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, there are grants available. We haven't done a lot of research on what particular grants are out there, but there are some available. They wouldn't offset the vast majority of it, but they certainly would help.
well, one of the impact fees that we didn't go after would address law enforcement, but I can't remember if it was law enforcement infrastructure or law enforcement operations.
It's infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Commissioner Coleman?
Well, what is the current MSTU?
It's about like this. I didn't follow the last one.
Current MSTU is 3.5678.
Yeah.
So, and we're getting enhanced MSTU, we were not.
Correct.
So
We were getting enhanced service with MSTU.
I think that what Commissioner Coleman is referring to is that it wasn't spelled out exactly what, it was kind of vague.
Yes.
What we were, whose interpretation of enhanced that.
And then that went even to the parade, I think, one year.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
And at this point, I would say our relationship with the sheriff is such that we don't have to go to the contract, right? If there's something we need, we can just say, hey, can you do this? And if it's possible, they just do it, you know? So there was a time when we felt like we were not getting very good service. I don't feel that that's the case anymore. That's not to say, though, we still have this looming issue with the contract is only good with the sheriff. And in order to do this well and do it right, I agree that we need 2 to 3 years to make it happen. So I think the first step in that is having these periodic updates where we know what the numbers are. We can talk about the service. We can talk to our community members, see what they feel. I think that at some point in time, we may want to determine a location. So if it's something that we already possess, it's kind of easy. If it's a location that we need to acquire, that's like we can start piecemealing it and getting some of the steps along the way. I mean, the contract that you guys blazed a trail on has been a godsend to the community because we would be at the 3.2, right, instead of where we're at now. So this is, and I believe it's a fair deal. Like we went through all the numbers with the sheriff's new team. Everybody agreed. Everybody's happy with it. So, but in order for us to be able to, protect our citizens from that kind of apocalypse moment where a sheriff comes in and says, canceled contract, we need to have a plan in place for what happens in that eventuality. Commissioner Clark.
So I think those are one of those situations where situation dictates. And if we get caught in that, if we can afford the 2.2 or 2.5 million for our own police department, we can at least pay them for 2 years till we started ours. I mean,
Yeah.
because we got to get the upfront money first. What's our upfront cost just to start?
We've taken the upfront cost and amortized them out over the life. So if you wanted to pay for everything in cash upfront, it'd be 1.9 million. But like I said,
Not to start a police department, 1.9 million?
that'd be the capital, all the capital equipment.
Yeah.
Just remember that in that scenario, we'd be paying the new sheriff 3.2 mils and still trying to find the money to save.
I'm a pro sheriff, personally. If we have the sheriff tonight and even if we get, hopefully the new sheriff coming aboard will be pro Newberry. And, if we can have these negotiations and these sit downs and give our citizens, which we talked about the other day, we're guaranteed 1. The sheriff's very open to give us 2. As long as we got our people protected and we can stay in this kind of money, I don't see why we spend.
Well, and I think that the idea of the precinct, substation, we've called it different things out here.
Absolutely.
That can be a first step, right? That can be something we say, well, let's get a footprint and let's get that part done. Maybe we help build the building, they staff it for, the first 5 years or whatever the timeline is. I don't want to throw out numbers, right? But I'm not trying to push a conversation, but I am trying to keep us where we have time to react to these situations. And that's kind of where we're at now, right? Elections in a year and a half, right? I believe in the sheriff. I think he'll win. He does great campaigning. He works hard at it. But if he doesn't, we could find ourselves in a situation where we have to respond, right? So I think let's continue having the conversation about the precinct and what does that look like. I think maybe we should schedule a time where we really do think about where we would want a future NPD to go and maybe put a pin in it, right? So the staff can either look to save the money to acquire that property or say, no, it's going to be at the city yard and we're going to move all those guys out to the environmental park. And then we'll have fire on one side of railroad tracks and law enforcement on the other. I think the old Barnett Bank is coming back up for sale, so there might be. But those kinds of, let's piecemeal it out, right? So that we do chip away at it when it comes. Because I think eventually, whether it's 10, 15, 20 years, I think we will want a police department. And as we grow, then that millage comes down because you've got more people sharing the burden of it. Commissioner Coleman?
Dallas, I appreciate you putting this together for us and all the time you spent on it. You had me at additional 2 meals. We can't, I can't be for that right now. Looking at a building, maybe doing that, but yeah, I can't do that to citizens in Newberry right now, especially the way it is, economy-wise.
Any other questions about the presentation? Lock those numbers in your head, right? And then we're gonna plan on, whether it's a workshop, maybe in the budget time, let's include a location. 'Cause it seems like that's kind of the big first step, that maybe you could acquire it even if we use it for something else for some period of time. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Dallas, what about impact fees? Can they be used for this in any way?
Mr. Mayor, once we had a police department, the commission could adopt impact fees to fund future growth of the police department. So you could again use it for future capital, but it can only be used for growth. So you'd have to put those aside for an expansion to the station or buying new vehicles that aren't currently purchased.
And do we understand why the public buildings impact fee can't be used for a police department building?
Because you can't assess an impact fee for something you don't currently have. We don't currently have law enforcement. So we can't take, the way impact fees work, or you take all your costs that you've spent and then kind of divide them out. We don't have any costs to divide.
But the impact fee is for growth. When we need a police department, it will be because we've grown. So you can't say we're taking the impact fee for the public buildings and we're gonna take some percentage off to build the building. We have to build the building ourselves, and then we pay to add on to the building. That's what the part that's confusing me.
That's my understanding, but I'll defer to the legal team on that one.
I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that if we needed to build a police department building because we've grown, that you can't use a impact fee meant for public buildings on that public building that you need because of the growth. Seems ridiculous that you have to pay for the upfront and then you can add a lean-to on later when 10 more people.
I agree. As someone I once worked for said to me, the law is weird and the legislature writes the law.
So we can't build a city hall with it either, right?
No, the city hall is, that's
You-
why.
You can pay for the additional part of city
Because
hall.
we already have a city hall. So we
We
can
already
add
got a
on.
police department down there, there's a metal building down there.
We'll put a sticker on it.
Mr. Mayor, we're proposing we start with a 50-square-foot office, a bicycle, and a single gun.
There we go. There you go.
One bullet.
One bullet. We'll expand our police department.
I'm sure the city attorney's office would love to defend that. Yeah.
Okay. And again,
We'll
guys,
spend all that
tonight,
money in legal fees.
tonight was not about voting for the Newberry Police Department. Tonight was getting an update, as we directed staff to do, on a 2-year timeline, because that's how much time it takes to do it. So that's what we've done. First thing I did before we even put this was call the sheriff and say, hey, we're doing this. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiating tactic, right? Every 2 years, we're gonna do this because it takes us 2 years out to build it. So, I've put that on Facebook. I've said very clearly to everybody, this is an update so that we can keep our information going, right? One of these updates will be time, and y'all say, look, we need to go, right? But I don't know, and it doesn't sound like it is tonight, right? Any last questions? This was just a presentation.
I do have a little bit of information for Commissioner Farnsworth.
Okay.
So Commissioner, High Springs millage rate is 5.99, ours is 5.92. And their fire assessment is equivalent to about 0.7 mils higher than ours is. So their fire assessment's $230, ours is $195.
It is when you multiply it across the whole city, right? Yeah, that's what, it's really hard when we've done this so many times on this dais, trying to compare one city to the next, because one city cuts the apple this way, another cuts it another way. They all get there, and yeah, that's why when you just compare millage rate, it's not quite fair, you know. Okay, Dallas, you're gonna, any more information, you're gonna stay right there and give us the employee referral program? Is that?
We've PDF the presentation and share it with the commission as a resource, and I'm sure there'll be more conversation during our budget workshops that are coming up here in a month.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. Coming to you tonight to just give you guys some information on a program we're going to institute here in the city, looking for some feedback from the commission on how to make it better, or your thoughts. So it's an employee referral program. Like I said, just looking for some feedback for us to implement. Just some statistics for you. The average cost of a vacancy is about $4,000. That's the lost time of productivity, advertising cost, HR cost, all those things. Currently in the city of Newberry, we have a 70-day to fill vacancy rate, which means the day we post a job, it takes us 70 days to offer someone a job. Our current tenure here is 3.23 years, which means most of our employees are on average been here for 3 years. And we currently have a 33% turnover rate. The national average is 10 to 15% for turnover. Yes, sir? There's a variety of reasons. One of the big ones is we're not getting quality candidates applying, or candidates who will work for what we pay. We do have candidates who come in and say they want to make more than the city manager makes, which is a little out of our price range. But there is, depending on the job, we do have some issues in attracting talent. So this program is designed to attract talent. So the employee referral program offers a couple of benefits. One of the big ones is it's a cost-saving measures. It saves us money in recruitment. The bonuses that would be paid out to the employees come straight out of the vacant salaries of the position we're filling, so we're not adding any more money to the budget. You tend to get a better fit when you have an employee who's been referred, because employees refer people who they think will fit well within the organization. Employees know the job better than HR does, so they can have a more realistic conversation with those employees they are referring. And then we tend to get better retention with employees who are referred, because they come in already kind of having an expectation for the city. Obviously, referrals will make our hiring process faster. We can get more qualified applicants in quicker. It also helps get a more diverse pool of candidates, because our own employees are out there spreading the word. It also helps with getting more local candidates, because our employees who live and work in the community are the ones talking to other people in the community. It boosts engagement, and then, like I said, it builds retention. When a new employee starts and they've been referred, they already have kind of a built-in buddy to go to for any issues, and that person who's referred them is invested, because if the person stays here long enough, they get a bonus. So the bonus is proposed to work like this. The employee who is referring has the option of either cash or a time off bonus. That's either $250 or 10 hours upon hire of the employee. And then after the employee's 6-month probationary period, the referring employee will get another $250 or 10 hours, their choice. A couple of rules. Only one referral per candidate, so you can't have 5 people refer one person. Only the first one counts. Unfortunately, elected officials, hiring managers, HR employees, and supervisors in the hiring department are not eligible for the bonus. We can always discuss commission salary during the budget process. Internal, temporary, and contract employees are not eligible, and then obviously the bonus is a taxable benefit and will be reported on the employee's W-2. That's what I've got for you, so any feedback from you guys appreciated?
Yes, yes, Dallas. So where do when we post referrals, where do we post them? Is it local? Is it county? Where is it posted?
For an employee to make a referral of a candidate, they would refer them to HR. There'd be a form they have to fill out that says, I so-and-so refer so-and-so. you talking about job advertisements?
Yes.
So we advertise on our city website, on Google Jobs, on Indeed, on Monster, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And then if it's on Florida League of Cities, if it's a specific job, for example, if we're hiring a planner, we'll post it on the American Planning Association, the Florida Planning Association. When we go out for line workers, we post them on all the line worker.
So it's throughout the county?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
We
The
blow
other,
it up.
yeah, the other question I had was with the referral program, is there a way to update, like say I referred someone, right? And I want to know the update on it, like to know if he was qualified or not. Is there a way of setting that up? Make sense?
Yes.
If not to you, if I referred Monty to you as a yard boy, then how would I, like, if I referred him, he went to you and he put an application and he said, Tony Mazon referred me. Would you give me an update as to why or if you did hire him? And is there a way, if not, can
We
you?
would give you an update as to if he got hired, because if he got hired, you get a bonus. But we wouldn't tell you why we didn't hire somebody.
You can't legally.
You can't legally do that?
You could get into, is it libel?
Well, can you update me with, we can hire him? I'm just trying to figure out why, like, because, like, I've heard citizens say they've referred to other people, but they don't know why, their referrers have not been hired. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to just kind of like, keep me wanting to push
I
me
mean,
to like.
the candidate can always ask us why we didn't hire them, but we're not gonna divulge that information to anybody else.
I don't know,
And
I don't want
almost-
the information of why you didn't, just we couldn't hire him.
Almost without exception, there was a more qualified candidate.
Yes.
I mean, it's,
Yeah, I think what Commissioner Mazon is asking is just an update with, he got hired, or we didn't hire him, just so you know, yay or nay. Do we
So
do
that I
that?
can keep sending referrals.
But again, if they got hired, you get $250 bonus.
I don't care about the money.
So if you don't get the money, then.
If you don't get the money, you didn't get hired.
What's the timeline for him to get the check? Because if that's the, like, hey, I got
It-
money. right?
It'd be the payroll after the employee was hired.
But it's 70, our average is 70 days after somebody applies.
Well, it's 70 days after we post it before
After
we
we
get
post
someone
it.
hired. So
Right.
the goal is to reduce that time.
So it's, right now, what you're talking about is, it's over 2 months. So I think most people that say, hey, I just put in an application, then they text me back a month later, they say, man, I haven't heard anything about it yet. So this program is specifically designed to help reduce that and increase the communication with the people that applied.
Typically, the reason the gap is so long there is because we're not getting, so if you're referring people who are qualified and get hired, the hiring period, I mean, we can hire somebody in a week if we need to,
Right.
if they're qualified and we're good to go.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
So this will apply to all positions?
Yep.
What about the fire department? Is this in their contract?
It is not in their contract.
So it wouldn't apply to them?
I mean,
Negotiations are still ongoing.
negotiation, we could apply it to them if we chose to, but I think the chief's just been referring all of his own employees to himself recently.
I mean, we need, I would say let it apply, because we need all these candidates, and we're having a hard time filling them, but.
Yeah, and a firefighter could refer someone to work in the streets department, they just know somebody who'd be a good fit there, and that would still, our goal is to get quality candidates, so.
Any other questions?
Now, how long, what's your anticipation of the difference in the time between what it is now, 70 days? What is your goal?
I don't necessarily have a goal. We'll definitely monitor it.
Yeah, I was
It really
wondering
depends on the
how you gonna
positions.
figure out whether it's working or not, or whether we're wasting time.
I mean, we'll know if
money.
it's working by the number of candidates we're hiring and their retention. We track all of our new hires to see how long they last. Some of them last a day, a week, forever. So if we're hiring employees that have been referred to us and they're not lasting, then we know we need to change something. And that's part of the reason why it's broken up, is you get half of the bonus when they get hired and the other half once they've made their probationary period.
He said he didn't have any other questions.
I know.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll go, Commissioner.
yeah, I'm working my way in. So there's no bonuses for the person being hired, just the person's, okay.
And we can certainly institute a hiring bonus if the commission wants us to, but
Any other questions? Commissioner Farnsworth? I don't have any questions. I don't have any problem with this, but I do want to dig deeper, and I'll do that privately, about the 33% turnover rate that we have. Because in my mind, it feels like we've done nothing but increase the salary for ever since you guys came on here. Like we every year we give merit bonus, we did COLA, we did the salary study so we could see if we're in the range. And we still are having that much turnover. So I don't have a problem with the 250, but I want to actually figure out what else is going on. Because I get that's hard to come out to Newberry if I live on the other side of the county and those kinds of things. But we'll start with that. And then if we need to have a more public workshop about it or something to figure out how to decrease that turnover rate. Okay, let's move along to public announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from you. We usually let that happen a little bit earlier in the night, but we had some presentations today. But if you got anything you want to talk to the commission about, if it's not on the agenda, you have 2 minutes to do so now. You got garage sales, missing dogs, missing cats, anything like that you want to let the community know, come on up. Missing horse, right? Sometimes there's a missing horse. All right, hearing none, we're going to move right on to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Mazon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to take us to the quasi-judicial. Ladies and gentlemen, we're entering a quasi-judicial. This means the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board, which means we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. Primary rule must follow. Concerns testimony and substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. The standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. Giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments are limited to evidence of record. I'm going to ask the attorney at this time to read into the record the ordinance or resolution by title only. Anytime. I can skip you and go to swearing in if you need to get there. Madam Clerk, would you go ahead and swear in the applicant, staff, and anybody here wish to participate in this quasi-judicial?
Brian Thomas.
I swear affirm the testimony you are about to give truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Brian, you kind of did the
Nana.
No, that's live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. It's either you go either way.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Attorney, would you read into the
Live long and
record
nana.
on second reading the ordinance 2023-12?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2023-12, LDR 23-05, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of approximately 8.28 contiguous acres, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry land development regulations, providing for rezoning from commercial general CG zoning district to commercial intensive CI zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel number is 01924-010-004, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is passed. Ordinance number 2023-12 at the appropriate time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Before we begin, we need to disclose any ex parte communications, disclose whether the member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are any conversation or transmission of information that may have bearing influence on any voting member's decision-making. Commissioner Coleman.
None.
Commissioner Clark.
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth. None. Commissioner Martin.
None.
Commissioner Mazon.
None.
I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have none either. I'm now going to explain the order of presentation we're going to follow for this quasi-judicial item before us. We're going to hear from the staff overview first, and the applicant can have a presentation. I don't see him present. So we'll probably skip that, but if he shows up, he has no time limit, then the staff report and recommendation with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant can cross-examine staff can cross-examine member decision-making body through the chair can ask questions. Final arguments will be heard. City attorney will advise decision-making body. Deliberations will happen, and then we'll have a vote. Go ahead, staff. Give us an overview and jump right into that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the applicant is not here. The applicant is not here and therefore does not have a presentation. It is the second reading of ordinance 2023-12. The commission heard it on first reading back in April. Is a stuck again. Oh, there we go. This is a little over 8-acre parcel. It's on Newberry Road, on the south side of Newberry Road. It's got direct frontage. It's in front of the Ultimate RV Storage and next to the RV Storage office. It does require 2 readings in front of the commission. This is the second reading. And staff finds the request consistent with the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan, Land Development Regulations. And so staff's recommended motion would be to enact ordinance 2023-12 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's going to move us to cross-examination. You want to cross-examine anybody? No? That's going to take us down to members to make body through the chair can ask any questions. Mr. Clark.
Brian, what is commercial intensive compared to commercial general?
Mr. Chair, commercial general is your small-scale retail, commercial outlets kind of thing. Commercial intensive is more automotive-oriented, requires a little bit more land and direct access to a major arterial. And so it will allow for more intensive automotive uses. So something that's going to draw more auto traffic in. Whereas downtown, you wouldn't necessarily want all that auto traffic to come in because of the congestion it could create in the downtown environment. Out on a main thoroughfare like this, it's more appropriate.
Okay. Board have any other questions? This is in the overlay district. They'll adhere to that. It'd be nice.
Motion.
Okay, well, hold on now. I gotta have final arguments. Final argument. Mr. Attorney, would you advise the decision-making body applicable law?
Substantial and competent evidence, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I will enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I have a motion.
Motion.
Motion from Commissioner Mazan. Second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us out of quasi-judicial. And as Mike makes his way to the podium, guys, I want to say there's a lot of opportunities for this conversation to go down a rabbit hole. We have one decision in front of us tonight and only one decision. And for all those different rabbit holes that we could go down, there'll be another meeting. Right? So we'll do our best to just keep it on the one decision we have tonight. And then we can, we'll come back to all those things that we want to ask. Unless you guys really want to stay here. Because I'm here at your pleasure. I'm here till 11. I'm here till 12. 1 o'clock in the morning for you guys.
With that primer,
Mike,
I got a fishing trip in the morning with Wounded Warriors, so let's get her done.
I was thinking, does that suggest something about the presenter? Lots of opportunities to go down a rabbit hole. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. State Road 26 traffic signal for the Newberry Market Development, code name for Publix. So we've had a lot of conversation about whether Publix supermarkets come to Newberry. This commission approved their site and development plan in the fall. And they have everything they need. That whenever y'all approved their development, they were still outstanding 5 or 6 permits. They're down to 2 permits now. They need a permit from the state, what they call an access driveway permit from FDOT, and they need an access and driveway permit from Alachua County. They have been working on both of those permits for better than 2 years. So, y'all are very familiar with the speed of government. by the amount of paving that you see going on in Newberry, Florida. There are government entities that was a joke, that move slower than we do, and we're waiting on permits from them. So tonight's recommended action, it's a three-part action. That number one is to authorize the city manager to execute a funding commitment letter to FDOT allocating funding for certain intersection improvements on State Road 26. So the FDOT has sent us an agreement, which is item number 2, the local funded agreement. An attachment to that is this funding commitment letter. So part 1 is authorize the commitment letter. Part 2 is to authorize execution of the locally funded agreement between the City of Newberry and FDOT that commits $800,000 from the city to a traffic signal that would be in the vicinity of County Road 235 and State Road 26. Then item number 3 is a traffic signal funding agreement that is between the city, Alachua County, and 2 development entities to raise $800,000 to be the city's portion of the traffic signal funding in item number 2. FDOT felt like a multi-party agreement was just too much. They wanted to have an agreement with just one entity, which is us. So these are companion agreements. One is us and all the other funding partners, and one is us with FDOT. One of the advantages of the FDOT agreement is FDOT agreement calls for FDOT to pay the balance of the traffic signal improvements that we come to. They estimate that to be $800,000 to as much as $1.6 million. So if bids come in at $801,000, it's a very good deal for FDOT. But if the project comes in at $1.6 million, it's a very good deal for the funding partners when you get the state essentially funding 50% of the traffic signal improvement. So just a couple slides to show you. With all of this, there's been some debate over where the traffic signal would be. I'd start by telling you that according to most traffic professionals, it would be inappropriate to put a traffic signal at County Road 235 and then again at Newberry Lane. That spacing doesn't meet any of the traffic safety standards for what would be appropriate for traffic signals. And I'm not going to tell you there aren't instances where it happens or that the city of Newberry couldn't overrule if we absolutely had to have 2 traffic signals there. But so there's undecided right now is where the traffic signal would be. So
that's rabbit hole number 1.
It's rabbit hole number 1, and I'm going to touch on it, but we don't have to delve into it. You'll remember 4 to 6 weeks ago, FDOT weighed in, and they said we prefer the traffic signal at Newberry Lane for safety reasons. They didn't even know about the development on the south side of 26, and I shared that with the commission, and I would call the reception lukewarm at best. It was probably lukecool. It was not a warm reception, but the thought was, well, it's FDOT, and they have a bunch of traffic safety engineers, and they think that's best. I've since discussed it with FDOT, and they said, look, we're not committed to either. We think it's better at Newberry Lane, but we would put it at County Road 235 if the City Commission felt very strongly about it. What we've agreed to do for now, though, is as part 1 of this effort is to have a kickoff meeting with traffic experts to discuss the pros and cons of whether it'd be better at Newberry Lane or County Road 235. Let the traffic experts make a recommendation, and then the funding partners would agree, and then move a design, and then move construction forward. But those are the 2 competing interests about where the traffic signal might be. If the traffic signal ends up at Newberry Lane, FDOT is committed that their improvements would be more than just the installation of a traffic signal. They would also back up to County Road 235 and Newberry Lane and make turn lane improvements that might be needed on County Road 235 so that we don't just push a safety problem back one intersection. Here's the sketch that FDOT sent to us probably about 8 weeks ago, 6 to 8 weeks ago. I showed this to you previously, where they proposed the traffic signal at Newberry Lane. This was their rendering of what the traffic flow would look like. You'll remember at the time FDOT had said no left turn or eastbound turn out of Newberry, out of County Road 232, and no northbound turn onto Newberry Lane. It was kind of odd, and we had a good discussion about it. That's on the table, but that's not what's going to be finalized. Is again, the developer associated with the Publix project is engaged. They're a funding partner. They propose to be a funding partner, and the developer that's proposing development on the south side has pledged to be a funding partner, and they're all going to be part of that conversation. Here's the second image of what FDOT had proposed back a few weeks ago. And so I'm available for questions. And after that, then we'll bounce back to here's the recommended action. One thing to point out on this, on these agreements and the signature, and I'd like the city attorney to help with the wording on that. It is my expectation, I've gotten a commitment, one of the two development parties has said, we've signed the letter and it's coming back to you. The Publix development team have said, you know, we've got to change the name of our entity, but we're fine with the letter as is. Alachua County has some objections, but they're probably overcomable. So authorization to sign all of these, I request that it be so long as there's no substantial changes that to the agreements, that I can sign them. And if someone makes a few tweaks, we'll review it with the city attorney's office. If he says, send it on, we will. And if he said, no, that's going to have to go back to the commission, then we'll be back here in 2 weeks. We're really trying to move this forward. FDOT has said once they get that commitment letter from Newberry, the signed agreement, that they will issue their permit. And that will allow Publix to proceed with access to State Road 26. The county is not there yet. The county still wants to consider some options and have some conversations. And I'm not sure if Publix would move forward without the county's permit or not. Publix hasn't weighed in on that. I asked them today, will you move forward if you only have the permit from the state? And they said, we'll have to check and we'll get back with you. So that's a lot of information to throw at you, but it's as current as
I want to zero
5:30 this afternoon.
And I want Scott to weigh in on the manager's question, but if you guys say yes tonight, it is possible for Publix to move forward. They'll have 2 points in and out, one to the north, one to the south. We continue to work on getting them an apron out on 235 later, right? So they could make that decision. The decision in front of you guys tonight is not the 235 Newberry Lane. Right. It's we're going to be on the hook for the total cost, but the manager has already gotten commitments from lots of people. Those commitments may change slightly. We have more commitments on the Newberry Lane than we do on the 235, right? Mm-hmm. So, but all of those are things that we need y'all to weigh in on, but not necessarily tonight, because if you say yes tonight, we've got lots of opportunities to put the piecing together. But that means that tomorrow we could go back to Publix and say, okay, you got the permits from the state, you got the permits from us, right? You guys don't really need this third point in and out. You could move forward, and we commit to continue to work on that permit for you. But at this point, it's 9 months with the county, and they want to keep talking about it. So.
Total 2 years.
Total 2 years. Total 2 years. But
why can't
it's
9 months of earnest. We got to prioritize this.
Let's get, for the record, let Scott weigh in on because I think it's important that, because I agree, if it's minor tweaks, then I think we would all say, let's go. But we need another set of checks and balances on that. Scott, how do you feel?
Mike said it exactly correctly. As long as there's no substantial changes in the three documents, then that's fine.
And we'll let him be the judge of what's substantial.
Are these head nods tonight?
Nope. No, we need a vote. We need a vote tonight, because we are saying that we are
motion to
technically
approve.
on. Second. And it's the recommended action, the 3-part recommended action that I got a motion from Commissioner Clark on.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what you're seconding, all three of those things. Comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the three-part motion that's on the screen? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Okay. So is there anything we can do about the county purposely trying to delay this project?
I would love to answer that question after the vote, though.
Yeah.
Because I am just as frustrated, especially since verbal agreements were made and then backtracked on. I think we also have a joint meeting coming up soon, and I think that should be a topic of conversation. I think that there's been intentional obstructionism here that I don't particularly understand, but I'd say let's put it as a discussion item on the next agenda, and then we'll say, what can we do here? Because I may just be ignorant, but I can't think of another project this size and this important to a community that I guess Plum Creek, right, would be bigger, right? That the county has intentionally inserted themselves. Yeah.
I think it ought to be a discussion, but, for this motion, I'm good. I think the developers that you got to get with are the guys that help pay for the light mic on this third one down here, the Gromac and the Carolina Holdings.
Yeah, so would give, if the traffic light goes on Newberry Lane, then we get the two developers. If it goes on 235, we'll just get the one developer.
But again, that's the conversation for another.
For next time.
For next time. So we're gonna have a whole item when we sit there and we talk about what do you guys wanna go, 235 or Newberry Lane?
Right.
So, and that, I want
Tonight
that
is
to
the
be
letters.
I want that to be a substantive conversation, but that's not the conversation tonight.
Okay.
Let's get the letters sent.
Right.
Mr.
Motion to
Mayor,
approve.
before a vote is taken, and I'm just gonna apologize. I swear I created a slide, but somehow the slide I created didn't make its way to the slide deck. So my apologies for that, but remember it very vividly. The funding shares, if you guys maybe will just take a note. City of Newberry is agreeing to fund at $134,000. No,
33.
134 on the nose, because we're the deep pockets on this. And we propose to pay that out of our traffic money, transportation money from the 1 cent sales tax, so the commission's aware. We propose for the county to pay $133,999. We propose for Publix, and Publix has agreed to pay $133,999. And Gromax, the developer to the south, has proposed to pay $400,000, totaling $800,000. So Newberry's got financial skin in the game. Before you vote, please be aware that we're at $134,000 commitment to make this traffic signal. 2 traffic studies have occurred. Publix paid for 2 traffic studies. Both demonstrate that a signal is warranted pre-development. That means if Publix never came, those traffic studies show that there's a traffic signal warranted there, which was Publix's point with why would we pay 100% for something that's already needed before we show up, but we're happy to be a funding partner, and which is what brought FDOT to the table to fund $800,000, up to $800,000 in the balance. And frankly, it's the justification that your staff has for recommending that we fund $134,000. And conversations I've had with the county, they're not opposed to their fair share of $133,999. They have some questions, and so I would say it's not secure, but the county recognizes that pre-existing traffic warrants a traffic signal today, and just for those facts warrant them to consider spending county tax dollars to fund the traffic signal improvements. So that's the financial piece of this that really needed to be shared with the commission before y'all voted.
Well, we need to do whatever we
Oh,
have to do.
I agree. But,
Commissioner Farnsworth.
so if it goes to, if it doesn't go on Newberry Lane, then you won't be getting that $400,000 from the other developer.
If it doesn't go on Newberry Lane, then, Mr. Mayor, I tend to agree that the other development may back out.
But if it doesn't go on 235, I would expect the county to try to back out, even
Correct.
though they need, if Publix goes away, they will need a light there. And
Right.
now it's 50-50 between them and Tallahassee, right? So they really should still continue. But again, all we have to vote on tonight is, do we want to get Publix the permit that they need tomorrow?
Correct.
And give them the opportunity to say, you know what, we're gonna move forward with a point in and out to the north and a point in and out to the south. And we'll worry about getting a third exit and entrance on 235 later, which we're committed to helping do that. But the motion in front of you tonight gives them the opportunity to move forward, right? And then we can figure out all of this.
Correct.
Any other questions from the dais? All right, I have a motion probably seconded, no more questions here. Public comments, questions on the floor. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 12 is proposed timeline for revising Newberry Comprehensive Plan. Brian, that's you. And we'll note that our law enforcement conversation went on a lot longer, so this one can be a little shorter.
I think that was a hint. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief. Basically, tonight, we wanted to announce the kickoff for our comprehensive plan overhaul and revisions. Just as a reminder, the comprehensive plan is your aspirational document. It's what outlines community's vision for growth. We will be going through a series of workshops that will be all, of course, open to the public. These are the different elements that are in our comprehensive plan right now. And as you're all aware, unlike the land development regulations, this has to go before the state for their review. And so somebody took out all of my advances. That must have been the city manager. He doesn't mind. Okay. Corrupted the slide deck. Okay. So anyway, the important items to look for here are there's 3 workshops. The first 2 are the public workshops, which of course the commission is invited to and hopefully welcome to attend. That's May 24th and followed then by another one on June 7th. It'll both incorporate what was learned in May 24th and then also give the public that couldn't attend the 24th an opportunity to come again. And then there will be an update on July 10th to the commission from the staff and from our consultant. And then
We'll send all these dates to your calendar.
Well, yeah. The important one is there's a tentatively scheduled workshop / open house specifically for the commission. And so that's the one that we really need to get your input to see if the commission will be available on that date. If not, we'll have to find another date for the commission workshop. And that is August 14th, City Commission workshop. So, but anyway, we go through these various steps. Once we get the approval on first reading from the commission on the revisions, goes to the state for their review. Could be as much as 45 days, comes back. If there's not any back and forth with the state over the revisions, then comes back for second reading, commission approves it on second reading, and then we transmit to the state, and we're good. Then we're going to turn around and get started on land development regulation amendments that'll then implement the new comprehensive plan.
Any questions? I applaud this. The 2 most important documents in the city of Newberry are our charter and the comprehensive plan. And when we get through the comprehensive plan, you guys will have led the charge on both of those documents, bringing them up to date. working with the community to make sure they reflect the community's goals. And I know this has been one that has been a long time coming. Farnsworth has been champion getting this in front of us, so I appreciate keeping the foot on the gas on it. So thank you, Brian. We look forward to seeing all of those dates populate our calendar. All right, item 13 is the consent agenda item that we moved. It's the water tower loan. Dallas, just tell us what this is and for the public's edification, explain why it was on the consent agenda, because I think it was appropriate for staff to put it on the consent agenda, but I want to make sure we all know what that loan agreement is.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The item before you is an amendment to our loan agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection related to the water tower out on State Road 26. City Commission originally issued debt on this loan for $150,000 as part of our ongoing research for the project. We'd have found karst features on the property, decided we needed to do more geotechnical work on the property. So we went to SRF and asked them for more money. And SRF has obligated another $26,500 towards the project to pay for additional geological testing out at the site. So this will be amending the loan we have from $150,000 to $176,500 to pay for those additional geotechnical studies. We put it on consent agenda because it's $26,000. It's fairly unsubstantial amount of money, as well as the commission has told us that we need to build this water tower. So.
Well, and I would say even more than the dollar amount, this commission is the one that said to staff, let's go find another spot to put that water tower if we can, right? And that's what has to happen in order to fulfill what the commission directed them to do. Remember, this is the water tower that's right up against some existing neighbor's house. They asked if it could go somewhere else. We asked the same question. This is gonna allow us to fulfill our word to the residents. So they were just, staff put on the consent agenda because we told them to do it. And so that's generally what happens on consent agenda. So, do we have a recommended motion?
Recommended motion is to authorize the execution of Amendment 1 to the SRF loan agreement DW 010810.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clark. Second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Any public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us on to comments. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, in preparation for the comprehensive plan update meeting sessions, we're going to schedule a couple of periods of time for the commission to come in and get themselves mentally ready. We're going to paint the wall and have 4-hour sessions where y'all can watch it dry. And that will be, I'm sorry, Brian, that was that was an inappropriate comment, and I do take it back. I couldn't resist. Mr. Mayor, the legislative session, Florida legislative session ended last Friday, and as of Friday, we were funded for 2 $1 million grants. One is for our wastewater plant expansion. One is for the elevated water storage tank that you just approved us to do $23,000 more worth of geotechnical work. Both have to get past the governor's veto pen, and reportedly the governor is going to be aggressive with his veto pen this year. So our team that is working in Tallahassee to help us get funded has done a spectacular job. We just got to close well. Mr. Mayor, I also like to notice the commission that we received a notice of award today for another $55,000 grant. This is from the USDA. It's their Rural Business Development Grant. We made application about 90 days ago. Y'all would have approved it, and they probably would have approved it on consent. The grant program is the Rural Business Development Grant. We turned in a 2-part grant. We were going to fund the development business plan for the Ag Tech Park. So we're gonna write the business plan for the Ag Tech Park, and we're going to engage stakeholders to further develop our stakeholders. If you'll remember a meeting we had in November, it'll be more of that type of stakeholder development, trying to get enough momentum to get that initial round of infrastructure constructed and those first facilities, which we think will be an incubator building. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney? Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk? Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Clark?
God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth? Good job, Commissioner Martin. Thank you. Commissioner Maison?
I would like to thank everyone that came and attended this meeting, including my mother back there in the corner. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Almost Mom's Day, right? There we go.
That's your early Mother's Day present?
And now,
You're kind of twisted, man.
that's the other way around. No, that's just a mother being a mother.
She thought this was a very late meeting.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble now. You're in trouble now. About to feel the wrath. But I do have my one joke. What type of exercise do lazy people do? Dilly squats.
I give these every Tuesday in my classes. Yeah, they kill. I want to say thank you to our representative, Congresswoman Kat Hammock. She's been amazing for the city of Newberry the past couple of weeks. She's always been great for us, but she brought the Ag Committee down from DC. She hosted an enormous gathering to educate folks on the Farm Bill. We had the opportunity to meet the chair of the Ag Committee, who specifically asked for more information about our Ag Tech Park. So it was fantastic. Then she hosted a military academy information day at Newberry High School, which was an opportunity for every young person around to come and hear directly from people from West Point, the Naval Academy. They were all there, dressed in their finest, answering questions. So just kudos to her and her office for keeping Newberry on the forefront of their policies and agendas and all of those kinds of things. So I also want to remind everybody the Watermelon Festival is May 20th, so we won't meet again before we have the Watermelon Festival. Parade is at 10:30. Lineup is the same way it's always been every year. We're going to line up down there at Walker's Produce Stand, and we'll come out and head west. And I believe, although it's a little unclear, I should ask Jason, I believe we're still going to go all the way down. Are we going to stop them? You don't know either. We're going to go till ASO tells us to stop, and then we'll turn back on First Street. Turning at Joel's this year. So if you line up, if you gather at the City Hall lawn, railroad tracks, we'll be there. Commission last year, we've run out of candy the past 2 or 3 parades because they've been so well attended. So everybody bring a 5-gallon bucket, and let's make sure, because when you get to the end of the line and the little kids are looking at you and asking where the candy is, oh, it's a sadness, Yeah, it's getting expensive. They got to stop doing such a good job putting these parades on. It's getting expensive. I don't believe so. You know, I miss pushing it the last half of the parade. That's all that I have tonight. Citizen comments. Mom, you want to get up and brag on the job? He has some really compelling questions tonight. That was a great joke at the end. Here, Commissioner Martin.
What's going on with the rear display building?
The mayor keeps sending back design suggestions.
I believe it's either out for bid or it's on the verge of being out for bid. Is that correct? We are ready. It's in the bidding process right now. It may not be officially on the street yet, but we should have bids back, I would say, in the next 6-8 weeks. And then we'll be breaking ground. And I know that we just awarded I should have mentioned this in my comments, the foundation for the first gateway sign out at 202 and State Road 26. That was awarded, and that work should start on the contractor's time frame. So we got really competitive price. I think our bids were averaging $75,000, and the one that we ended up with was $26,000. So it was well below what we had estimated it was going to be when we approved the budget.
All right. Any last call for comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.